and One Nigeria info. It's time to Budeshi, the Hausa phrase for open it up. And right here on the show, brought to you by the Public and Private Development Center, PPDC. The goal is to open up contracting and procurement processes in our ministries, departments, and agencies. And they're back. Please welcome Sam Ofia. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Gift Odemudia.
Good morning, Ofi. It's Gift Omo Idedia.
Ideidia.
Yes.
My bad.
Why do I feel that was on purpose?
It was not.
Okay. Apologies accepted.
Thank you very much. I have right to know, right? To get it right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And of course, we're closer now than when we first started, right?
Yes.
28th of September is drawing nigh.
Yes, it is.
Just pique our interest before we get into the meat of today. Just pique our interest. What's happening on the 28th? How are you guys getting ready for the 28th of September?
Good morning, everyone. So, 28th of September is International Right to Know Day, and here in PPDC, that's the Public and Private Development Center, we have since 2013 we started ranking public agencies to find out how compliant they are regarding the Freedom of Information Act. So we started in 2013 with ranking 13 MDAs, and we moved to 2014 we ranked about 67 or 69 MDAs. 2015 we ranked 115 MDAs, and 2016 we ranked 131 MDAs. So there's been growth over the years, and just like we're growing, I am happy to report that the MDAs, in terms of compliance, in terms of proactive disclosure, in terms of responsiveness to requests for information, in terms of level of disclosure, these are benchmarks that we use to rank them. They are also improving. Last year was the first time in the history of Nigeria that we had an agency, the Bureau of Public Service Reforms, who had all greens. We ranked them green in proactive disclosure, because what we would normally request in terms of their procurement processes, capital warrant releases, procurement plans, they already had it up on their website. So the last year for us was really good, and that's the kind of culture we're trying to promote. That's the kind of orientation we want the ministries, the departments, and agencies to imbibe.
Okay. And you're releasing those rankings on the 28th of September.
Yes, that's International Right to
Know Day.
Yes.
It's a right. It's not a privilege.
Certainly.
It is a right. So, of course, the details of time and venue will be communicated as we go along. So today we look at the progress of the FOI since inception. FOI is Freedom of Information. Since inception, particularly in the education sector.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So how's it been so far since inception, particularly when it comes to education sector?
Well, education is actually has been one of our focus over the years. That's the education sector, and that's because education is the bedrock of every nation, every child. Myself, Ofi, Swat, we're all here, Sam, because of the level of education we're privileged, to have whilst we were growing up. So it's every child's basic right, and that's something that we're very passionate about. So we work very hard to ensure that there is some kind of disclosure in terms of how much they get, what they get with the monies, and how they spend the monies as well. So it doesn't just end for us when we make this request and get a response. We've been here months earlier this year I believe, and sometime last year, talking about our adventures when we go into the field to monitor the states of our Marjorie schools, to monitor the states of UBEC awarded contracts as well. And we keep talking about it, just trying to keep it in the public space. And where generally for us the aim is to try and bring some kind of light, throw some kind of light into the sector, we're trying to, like the team for our compliance ranking this year says, we want everybody to come together. Let's open it up to fix it. And if the system is closed, there is no fixing.
Indeed. Sam, you've been on the field a lot.
Yeah.
You've been everywhere. Everywhere. What were some of the things you saw, generally speaking, in particular with education, the education sector?
I think there's a lot of progress when it comes to education sector. Even while visiting UPEC projects on site, I think they're improving, they're doing really good, especially our module schools.
Okay.
So the projects are well executed and other basic schools as well. So, and for the past years, like all our requests to education sectors, like Ministry Department Agencies under Education, they have been responding to all our requests. So we have National Examination Council, NECO, we have Nigerian Law School, Universal Basic Education, Nigerian Library, National Library of Nigeria, National Commission for Basic of Education, Federal Ministry of Education, Teacher Registration Council of Nigeria, and Tertiary Education Trust Fund. So they've been responding to our FY requests, though we cannot say that they're proactively disclosing information, but at least they always provide us with information. And we probably have some of them that are always reluctant in providing information. Example is the Federal Registration Council of Nigeria, and this is it. For that reason, we took them to court last year because they were like the way people evade court service. That's the way they evade accepting and acknowledging FOI request. So I think aside other areas, the Registration Council of Nigeria is the only MDA under education that has never been complying with FOI.
Which one is that?
Liberian Registration Council of Nigeria, and we are currently in court here today.
Okay, they are currently in court.
Yes.
But let me ask you something, right? In the education sector, what are some of the basic challenges you guys have, in terms of information disclosure?
Well, for us, it's still about understanding the provisions of the Act. We're trying to fight that whole attitude, or basically we're trying to build institutions and not individuals, because you have situations where we make a request this year and boom, we get a response. And we make a request this year and you're asking us for maybe our certificate of incorporation, or you're quoting
National Library that told
yeah,
us that.
yeah, and I would like to report that we sent them the certificate and they have responded. But ideally, that's not the case. As a citizen, I need not even make it for no loss, my brother. So we responded and they have, but that ideally shouldn't be the case. I need not even as a citizen to state a reason why, I need that information. It ought to be proactively disclosed. So for us, we're trying to bridge that gap of building institutions, not individuals, because if you're transferred tomorrow, another person comes in and it's all about how the person feels about it, what the person thinks about it, how the person understands the interpretation of the act. So that for us, we're seeing over time has been a major challenge. The Liberian Council, I don't think they've ever responded to our request for reasons best known to them. Hopefully we'll find out very soon and all of that. So it's about building institutions for us, letting people know by law you are mandated. We're not asking for personal information, we're asking for information that regards your public finance expenditure, your procurement processes.
Because if money expended in education, if procurement, contracts and all that are going any other way than they should be, that's part of the reason why we have such a crisis in our education sector. And I know lots of times Nigerians might say, oh, this sector is doing poorly, and power is so bad, and what are they doing about health, and what? But this is the place to start, to know that the resources, because even though MDA say there's no money, money was appropriated and was sent to you guys. So even if it's not everything that you needed, how have you been faring with what you got? And interesting. Sam, UBEC, you guys went around the country looking at UBEC projects and the like. One of the concerns really is how communities are involved in all this. And I know that with the public health sector, there were some issues around that. Some people didn't know that they were going to, renovations were supposed to happen. They didn't. they were shocked to hear the amounts and weighing that against the progress they saw. What was some of the issues you saw when you looked at primary schools and other education projects?
The major issue is that they are not aware of the project at all. So not even the contract sum or the contractor. So whenever you disclose such information to them, they'll be like, so something like this has been going on and we don't know. And most times when those contractors come to the local government or community, they always behave as if they are doing them a favor. And then they don't know that this is their right because nobody is informing them. They don't know anything about the projects. They don't have access to information. So it's always difficult for them over there to know what is going on and all that.
But looking at this challenge, yeah, that you notice in most communities, I mean, I'm just wondering how we can correlate that with the FOI, you know, the importance of that as against coming down to the community and people getting information about some of these projects that are to be carried out in their communities.
They need to start making use of FOI, though they don't know, but I think we are beginning to enlighten them as much as we can to make use of FOI. Like Give said earlier, one of those MDAs requested for our incorporation documents, and we had such experience with National University of Abuja. So they asked for our incorporation document, and we gave them. They provided us with those information. So last year we made another request to them. They were like, we can't just give it out. They requested for 20,000 naira for those information. So we're like, ordinarily we're not supposed to be paying you. Even if we are to pay you, there's a regulation on to that effect by the Attorney General Federation. So, and we want them to understand that if everybody, this is your right. Like, it's a right so fundamental, not just a right, because it's enshrined in section 39 of 1999 Constitution, and the FOI came to expand such rights. So if we can make use of this act very well, I think everybody will get on board and we can promote accountability in our governance.
This is very, very important, right? And let me still take you down to the community level. I mean, we get to talk about this on radio. We tell people, look, citizens need to get involved. They need to know. They can visit your site and get all of this information. But, you know, my worry is that when you go down to the communities, it seems there's a lot of ignorance about the availability of such information, because if they can key into this, or even, you know, try to understand that, look, there are available platforms that you can get such information, maybe the information they need would not be so scarce as for them to express it to you when you go for such community. But now, looking at, you know, the FOI and its importance, and, you know, going down to the grassroots level, just what effort ought to be made, or are you making, to help these community members understand that, look, you can key into this and get all the information you need?
Okay. One of the recommendations we've seen from Sam going into the field and other monitors that we have going into the field is actually the issue of synergy. So there seems to be a disconnect, there seems to be a huge disconnect from the local government to the state government and then the federal government. Then while knowledge gaps, it's also very, the gap is quite large in terms of the community people being aware of what projects they're entitled to and all of that. And for us, one of the ways that we're embarking on to mitigate that is to try as much as we can to get information out there. And one thing that is very important to us is getting timely information to them. So citizens are not reacting, they're more of standing and exercising their right. So we're doing this by telling them you have a right, and the right is the act. And we're doing this also by sharing information as we get them. So we're using local radio stations, we're using church bulletins, we're using the district heads, we're using youth leaders. We're just trying to, you know, disseminate information, write down in very common languages, things that you understand, in ways that you understand. We're visualizing, we're using infographics, we're just trying to get it down to the layman and make him understand, look, if it's a primary healthcare center, if it's a type 1, it should have this, it should have that, pictures of beds, pictures of nurses, you know, pictures of equipment that ought to be in the place. If it's a Model 1 Marjorie school, it should have this number of chairs in the classroom. It should have this number of pupils in the classroom. So we're for us in PPDC, we're trying, we understand that importance, and we're trying to really break the knowledge gap and let citizens be the ones reporting back to us, giving us timely feedback on the state of their own projects.
It'd be interesting to know how many Nigerians would be willing to get on board this in a wider scale, because recently on the show we talked about, I think last week we talked about the supply and the demand for good governance.
Yeah.
So there's a supply side, which lots of times we scream bloody murder about is not being given, but then how much of it do we actually demand? No, not just the noise we make every now and then or complaining, but saying, Mr. Head of MDA, Madam Director, these are the things that we expect, and whether we'll do that across board. So the fact that there's a school project in my local government that I should know about. Do I actually have the information? Do I call people? I'll always refer to the Baramutu matter with the PHC. When is it Burutu?
Yeah.
Burutu, yeah. I mean, you guys were here. The agency overseeing that gave you the information, but it took somebody in the community to corroborate and say no. Yes, here in Abuja on paper, money has been released. It's also completed. The feedback, the report has said it's completed. Truly, this thing has been done. But it took people being involved and caring enough to say, no, that isn't true. And of course, we're domiciling this discussion in education, and how we really complain about how public education has just gone into the doldrums. We need to have a state of emergency declared in education. But maybe that will not be supplied until we demand it.
Yeah.
And the information you guys are churning out, the data that you're collecting and you're publishing, should help drive that conversation. So it's interesting you say you have one agency in court. Yeah. I know that one of these you were in court before, but now you guys are best of friends.
Yes, and that's UBEC. It's been
UBEC at the beginning.
A hate-love relationship, but we're friends, and we're happy we're friends because we all see that we have one common goal, and that is to better the system. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Government cannot exist without civil society. We're there to check and see that they do what they ought to do. So it all started off a bit not on the very bright side, but today we're offering technical support to them. They're opening up their data. Not only opening up their data, they're actually opening it up with standards. That's the open contracting data standards. And it's good for me when I look at UBEC and the growth over time and their willingness as well. So that's something we have to commend, and we're looking that other agencies in the education sector, will follow suit. I was privileged to be on the Budeshi Waka tour, and you could see the pain, you could see the hurt in people's faces, in their eyes, when they hear what ought to have been, and when they even compare, oh, you mean the contract was awarded for 21 million and this is the structure on ground. It brings up that kind of holy anger in them, and citizens are we're no more docile. People are willing to sit up. Yes, just give us the information. PPDC, all we need you to do is give us this information on time, and we will monitor and report back to you free of charge. It's our right, it's our community. And we want to bet. So people are beginning to understand that, look, if you don't do it for yourself, nobody is going to step in and come and send monitors and evaluating officers. That might be afterwards, after the project has been completed. Money has gone to the left-hand side and you're coming to react. But if you step in on time, ask your local government chairman. PPDC is saying this has been awarded in Abuja. It's 3 weeks, we haven't seen a contractor, or the contractor just turned up and he has never come back. What's going on? Ask the state SUBEP chairman, ask the federal, keep asking. Persistence pays. You will definitely get an answer. But when you don't even know, it's like a closed mouth. They say it's a closed destiny. So you
Yeah.
have to know, you have to be informed. And now that they are informed, they just need us to get them the information timely, and they're willing to monitor and report back.
Indeed, there is power of in information, you know, because once you have that on your hand, what you can achieve is limitless. And it's kind of surprising to me that, you know, a government agency is being very reluctant to provide information, you know, because they should be at the forefront of it. But then it's all good, you know. Basically, sometimes you need to push a little hard so that they would get into the flow. Just like you said, now you have a great relationship with UBEC and other agencies. So let's hope that this would push other agencies to also come on board and give the necessary information for what is needed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why you say you're surprised, because
No, I am. because
that
it's-
opacity is necessary for. Okay, well, let's leave it at that. But just to drive something that Gift was saying, and in fact both of you have been saying, here's a quote, one of my favorites from Arnold Bennett. It says, "The price of justice is eternal publicity." You have to keep raising matters around that issue.
Talking about
You can't do it 2 weeks and then go and sleep. And one of the phrases that I've coined and really want to insist on is that if we want the dividends of democracy, we must take on the responsibilities of democracy.
Yeah,
It's work for communities, for citizens to meet up with local government chairman, to insist with the state SUBEB or which other state agency, or to engage with federal lawmakers. It takes a lot of work.
And
It takes time.
and
It takes
dedication.
Effort. It takes dedication.
But
it
when
takes
you realize
sacrifice.
that it affects your cousin, it affects your aunt, it affects your grandma,
mother and-
your mother, then you begin to realize that
Because I'm thinking, why wouldn't there be pain and holy anger in their eyes when their kids can't go to good schools, where they have to trek 5 kilometers to go to another school? Meanwhile, 21 million was voted for
In-
their own village, for their own ward, and nothing has happened. Of course there'll be holy anger. Of course people will just want. So what did we do to deserve this? The money is there, but other people want to feed fat off it. Or monies are returned back to the coffers at the end of the day. We couldn't execute, so yeah, take it back. And you just wonder really how we got this all wrong. Well, it's your turn to join us on Budeshi. Your thoughts about the education sector and what we could be doing to make sure that we continue to progress with freedom of information in that particular sector. We've maligned, we've cried, we've screamed. Education, particularly public education, has gone into the abyss. Well, what are your thoughts about how freedom of information can progress and help us drive the narrative further? 080-999-30137. That's for WhatsApp. 080-999-30137. Or you can call 09-4600-951. 0809-597-4869. Good morning. Oh dear, lost that connection. Once again, it's 09-4600-951. 0809-597-4869. It's Budeshi. We're looking at the progress of FOI demands or inception in the education sector. All right, while we await those calls, Sam, Gift, any final thoughts?
Well, I think people should keep asking for information, because without information we can't make any headway. Information is very, very important. Since we have freedom of information at the moment, people should start making use of it. We should start asking questions about contracts that's going on in our environment, in our community, and all that. I think it's very, very important.
All right.
All right, I think we have a caller now. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, please.
Welcome to Budeshi.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hello.
what's your name?
My name is Lucky.
Lucky. Please go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm calling from Airport Road.
Nice of you to join us.
Hello?
Nice of
Yeah,
you to join us. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm listening to the program. I think I really understand what it's about and what you get over there, and appreciate them so much and what they're trying to do. I just want to give them an insight into something that I've discovered recently since I've been in education.
Okay.
There is somewhere in accuracy. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we
We're
can.
listening.
and it was built by the last administration, I'm sure, and I have had cause to go to, last year it was taken over by fire, we moved to fire outbreak there because of the trees around it, and then by the grace of God, effort, we were able to save the situation and all that. And then I took it upon myself, I went to the Universal Basic Education Board, somewhere in the 3, and nobody complained about SSC and all that, but I tell you that I'm talking to you now, nobody has made any effort about that thing. That's how bad our educational system is. And that's how the people that are managing the situation in the educational sector, how bad they have let it be. So that, I don't know, it's something that is brilliant, it's something that we all need to put our hands together and see how we can really make them do the right thing. So I don't think I'm just giving out this information to them so that they can know what to do and how they can put it into their own system and see how they can make correct that measure and I've just talked that situation I've just talked about.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Lucky. We do appreciate. And you want people involved, sending you scope, sending you data. They can do that via your Twitter handles, Budeshi. Or...
Yes, they can. Thank you very much, Lucky, for calling. The line was a bit foggy, so if you could send your complaint or your observation to us via email, and would probably look into it. Our email address is ppdc@procurementmonitor.org. That's ppdc@procurementmonitor.org. We're also on Twitter. It's ppmonitor capital NG. That's ppmonitor NG. And you can call our office number. It's 070-666-18896.
You want to take that again?
That's 070-666-18896.
All right.
Our Budeshi platform is www.budeshi.ng, and our website is www.procurementmonitor.org.
All right. Well, thank you so much for stepping in, Sam, Program Officer at Budeshi, and Senior Program Officer, Gift. Let me not murder that name again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and please, our regards to the entire team, and thank you for what you guys do at the PPDC.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much.
Thank you for listening and being a part of the show. We look forward to you joining us.